Step into the shadows of history as we unravel the mysterious tale of Old Mother Hubbard. First published in 1805, this seemingly light-hearted rhyme about a woman and her dog hides a web of intrigue, echoes of political betrayal, whispers of witchcraft, and ties to real-life historical figures. Join me as we unravel its cryptic verses, peeling back the layers to reveal the chilling secrets hidden in the shadows of time. Welcome back, Darklings. Before we delve into the history of this rhyme, let's revisit the most familiar version. Old Mother Hubbard went to the cupboard to fetch her poor dog a bone, but when she got there, the cupboard was bare, and so the poor dog had none. In 1805, Sarah Catherine Martin published an expanded version of Old Mother Hubbard as a children's book, transforming the simple rhyme into a playful tale of an old woman's increasingly absurd attempts to care for her dog. Alongside the familiar opening lines, Martin included additional verses such as, "She took a clean dish to get him some tripe. When she came back, he was smoking his pipe." The story concludes with a grand celebration of the dog's talents and legacy. This wonderful dog was Dame Hubbard's delight. He could read, he could dance, he could sing, he could write. She gave him rich dainties whenever he fed, and erected this monument when he was dead. For those curious to explore the entire story, I'll include a link in the comments below where you can read the full book and enjoy all its charming details. Martin claimed the rhyme was her original idea and inspired by the real-life housekeeper of her sister's family. The illustrations of Mother Hubbard's house were said to be modelled on the housekeeper's actual cottage, located in the county of Devon. However, evidence suggests that Martin may not have invented Old Mother Hubbard at all, but rather adapted an existing rhyme. A reviewer of Martin's book from the same year it was published mentions hearing a similar rhyme in childhood. This little book, the poetry of which is of ancient date, we can recollect at this distance of time that in our infant days the story of this renowned woman, though full of inconsistencies, afforded us much entertainment. The reviewer, who was over 60 years old at the time, implies that Old Mother Hubbard was in circulation for at least 50 years prior to Martin's publication. Further evidence comes from an alternative version of the rhyme, published 8 years before Martin's book. In 1797, Samuel Arnold included this rhyme in Juvenile Amusements. Old Mother Hubbard went to the cupboard to give the poor children a bone, but when she came there, the cupboard was bare, and so the poor children had none. The focus on poor children, rather than a dog, could reflect the socio-economic hardships of the time. In the late 18th and early 19th centuries, poverty was widespread, and hunger was a common theme in literature and rhymes. In this period, bones weren't purely waste. They were used to make bone broth or soups, which were common staples for the poor. The bare cupboard would then emphasize the lack of even the most basic ingredients. It remains uncertain whether this version mentioning children predates the familiar dog rhyme or is simply a variation of it. What is now widely accepted, however, is that Sarah Catherine Martin built upon an earlier existing rhyme to create her book. So to trace the true origins of Old Mother Hubbard, we must delve nearly 200 years further into the past. In 1591, English poet Edmund Spenser published Mother Hubbard's tale. But unlike Martin's playful story, this was a biting political satire critiquing corruption in the court of Queen Elizabeth I. Written as a poem, the tale tells of an ape, representing a foolish nobleman, and a fox, a sly courtier, who exploit their way into positions of power through deceit. The fox is widely believed to represent William Cecil, the principal secretary to Elizabeth I. The poem is said to have antagonised Cecil, contributing to Spenser's estrangement from the English court. As for the ape, there is evidence linking the character to Jean de Simier, a French courtier who reportedly charmed Queen Elizabeth and whom she nicknamed her monkey. Simier was closely associated with the Catholic Duke of Anjou, who sought to marry Elizabeth and become her consort, a proposal likely viewed with disfavour by Spenser, given its political and religious implications. Mother Hubbard is not a character in the story of the fox and the ape, but serves as its narrator, with no mention of the rhyme. However, some speculate that Mother Hubbard represents Elizabeth I herself. As the Virgin Queen, Elizabeth never married, instead pledging her body and life to England. She was often referred to at the time as the mother of her country. If we interpret old Mother Hubbard as Queen Elizabeth, then Robert Dudley, the Earl of Leicester, seems a fitting candidate for the dog. Elizabeth referred to Dudley affectionately as her little lapdog, and their close relationship fuelled considerable speculation and gossip at court. Elizabeth did consider marrying Dudley at one point, which aligns with the idea of the rhyme as a mocking taunt, suggesting the Queen leading Dudley to the cupboard in search of a bone, only to deny him marriage and leave him wanting. The imagery carries a subtle hint of innuendo, adding a playful and teasing element to the rhyme. But the roots of old Mother Hubbard might stretch even further back, possibly as a figure of political satire from an earlier era. One theory links old Mother Hubbard to the dramatic downfall of Cardinal Thomas Wolsey, one of the most powerful men in England during Henry VIII's reign. In 1527, Henry sought an annulment from his first wife, Catherine of Aragon, to marry Anne Boleyn. Wolsey was tasked with securing this annulment from the Pope, but ultimately failed. Therefore, old Mother Hubbard went to the cupboard to fetch her poor dog a bone, but when she got there, the cupboard was bare, is thought to symbolise Wolsey's unsuccessful attempt to secure the annulment. The dog, representing Henry VIII, is left wanting. Wolsey's failure led to his disgrace and eventual death, giving the rhyme a rather dark undertone. Another chilling theory ties old Mother Hubbard to one of the darkest chapters of American history. In 1692, the Salem witch trials ignited a terrifying wave of fear and persecution. Over the course of the hysteria, 20 people were executed and countless others imprisoned, accused of practicing witchcraft. Among the accusers was 17-year-old Elizabeth Hubbard, whose chilling courtroom displays terrified all who witnessed them. Elizabeth would clutch her chest, let out piercing screams, and twist her body into unnatural contortions, claiming unseen forces were attacking her. These fits were said to be caused by the witches she accused, their malevolent spirits tormenting her in full view of the court. Her outbursts were so vivid that few doubted her claims. Elizabeth's trances were particularly infamous. During one woman's trial, she fell into a deep, unresponsive state, her eyes staring blankly ahead. For the entire proceeding, she remained silent, her stillness a stark contrast to her usual frenzied fits. The court interpreted her silence as proof of the accused's guilt, believing she was under the spell of witchcraft. By the end of the trials, Elizabeth Hubbard had testified against 29 people. 17 of them were arrested, 13 hanged, and 2 more died in the squalor of Salem's prison. Little is known about Elizabeth's life after the trials. Like many of the afflicted girls, she vanished from the historical record, leaving behind only the devastation of her accusations. Her testimony and fits had condemned people to death, but whether she acted out of fear, malice, or something else entirely remains unclear. It might be pure coincidence that old Mother Hubbard shares her name with one of the most infamous accusers from the Salem witch trials, and it's also worth noting that the trials occurred 100 years after Spenser published Mother Hubbard's tale. Yet intriguingly, the image many of us associate with old Mother Hubbard is of her wearing a bonnet, much like those worn by Puritan women in Salem. Even more striking, some of the earliest woodcuts depict her in a pointed witch's hat. Could it be that Elizabeth Hubbard's influence has subtly become entwined with the visual legacy of the rhyme? But what do you think? Is old Mother Hubbard a commentary on poverty and hunger in the late 18th century, a sharp piece of political satire, or a shadowy echo of the Salem witch trials? Or maybe you have your own ideas. Share them in the comments below, and if your thirst for nursery rhyme origins still lingers, be sure to subscribe and explore the rest of my channel. See you in a future video.